Before we start the film, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. The film begins with a young man involved in a romantic relationship with a 40-year-old married woman. At the start of the story, a family moves to a new city in Germany. The main character is Pedro, who arrives with his parents and younger sister, Nikki. Pedro is an 18-year-old boy who is not only smart and handsome but also one of the top students in his class. After settling in the new city, the family explores the market in the evening. Pedro decides to ride a scooter to the beach, and when he arrives, he notices a middle-aged woman changing out of her wet clothes. Seeing this scene, Pedro feels a strong urge to act, but he hesitates and doesn't act on his initial thought. Meanwhile, the woman notices him. When she looks in his direction, she opens her towel. Even though Pedro saw her, he didn't approach and quickly left the place. It's important to remember that sometimes opportunities are worth the risk, even if things don't go as planned. Trying is better than running away. But Pedro felt uncertain and decided to walk away from the situation, then rejoined his family at the market. Later, Pedro unexpectedly sees the woman again at the market. Driven by curiosity, he follows her to a hotel, gathers his courage, and knocks on her door. When the woman, Julie, opens the door, Pedro feels nervous and starts to leave, but she invites him in and introduces herself. She seemed to know he was a student, and despite the age difference, Julie made an unexpected move. However, Pedro felt overwhelmed and quickly left the room. It's interesting how life sometimes presents unexpected opportunities, and yet, Pedro seemed unsure how to respond. The next day, after some thought, he decides to return to the hotel, hoping for another chance. But when he arrives, he finds only Julie's shirt in the room. He calls the front desk to get her contact details. When he calls the number, he discovers it belongs to Julie's husband, realizes the situation, and immediately ends the call. The scene shifts to Pedro in his classroom, where he answers his teacher's questions correctly, earning their respect. Later, he calls Julie's husband again to ask for the address of her workplace, where she works as a delivery woman. Pedro waits until Julie finishes her shift and then meets her. She recognizes him immediately but feels confused about him following her after running away the first time. Pedro doesn't know how to answer her question. A few days later, Pedro sees Julie again carrying some items. He offers to help her, but she refuses and pushes him away. On his way back, Pedro gets into an accident. Julie sees him injured and takes him to her home to treat his wounds. As she tends to him, she unbuttons her shirt and guides him to place his hands on certain parts of her body. Pedro senses another chance and acts on his impulses, and the situation becomes more intimate between them. Pedro begins meeting Julie regularly during college hours, while her husband is at work. His routine changes, and he spends more time with her instead of focusing on his studies. He even starts falling asleep in class. One day, while playing the piano at home, his mother is about to leave in a fancy outfit and asks him to take care of his little sister. But Pedro is eager to see Julie, so he leaves his sister and heads to Julie's place in the rain. His sister, being smart, notices his absence but doesn't cause any trouble. At Julie's home, Pedro feels very comfortable, but her husband suddenly arrives. Pedro quickly hides on the balcony in the rain. The husband doesn't come out, and Julie manages to distract him. When her husband goes to bed, Julie sends Pedro home and ensures he leaves safely. After the incident, Pedro feels hurt and jealous, angry that Julie left him sitting in the rain. When her husband, Jay, returned home, Pedro's feelings of pain and frustration deepened. He went back home crying, confused by his emotions. His parents noticed his behavior and became worried, and their relationship also started to become tense. The next day, Pedro and his family went to church to attend a piano performance, where he met a girl named Clara who showed interest in him. But Pedro was too distracted by his thoughts about Julie to notice Clara. When he returned home, he was surprised to see Julie standing outside the house. His parents assumed he knew her, but he chose to ignore her. The following day, Julie approached Pedro outside his school. This time, he explained why he had been upset with her. That night, Julie came to his house, knowing his parents were out. Pedro was supposed to take care of his sister, but the two of them got into a heated argument. Despite the tension, they both apologized to each other. In the end, Pedro played a beautiful melody on the piano, which helped him connect with Julie and win her heart. Julie then suggested they visit the park together, and they spent a carefree, joyful day. As the day went on, they felt more relaxed and playful, sharing a spontaneous moment of closeness and taking pictures together to capture the memories. As evening approached, Julie invited Pedro to her guest house near the park, where they continued enjoying each other's company while preparing a meal. But things began to fall apart when Pedro's sister told their mother that he had been spending most of his time with his new girlfriend. When Pedro's mother checked his phone, she found the photos he had taken with Julie and felt confused about how to handle the situation. At the same time, Pedro's academic performance was slipping, and his teacher warned him that he needed to focus. One day, while Pedro's father was out, Julie visited him again. In a romantic moment, he gave her a love letter. As she read it, she was touched by his words, and the mood between them became more intimate. Things escalated quickly, but they were interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. They hurried to get dressed, and Pedro went to check who had arrived. It was his mother, accompanied by another man. Angry and upset, he stormed out of the house. Julie tried to comfort him, but he refused to listen. When Julie returned home, her husband confronted her with suspicion. In a fit of rage, he struck her, leaving her face swollen. Julie regretted her actions and apologized to her husband. Meanwhile, Pedro's mother broke up with her boyfriend and tried to talk to Pedro to make things right, but he rejected her, full of anger and confusion. Pedro's mother later discovered that her husband had known about her affair. The next day, she offered Julie money and asked her to stay away from Pedro, but Julie refused. Later, she met Pedro outside college. Her poor condition only fueled his anger, but she calmly explained that she had ended the relationship and no longer wanted to betray her husband. Instead, she planned to marry him as a step toward reconciliation. She handed Pedro her wedding invitation and left. Pedro felt heartbroken and abandoned. In a moment of emotional turmoil, he rushed to Julie's guest house, leaving everything behind, even though he had an important exam that day. His father began searching for him and eventually found him asleep at the guest house, unaware of the time. They woke him up by pouring cold water on him, and after a brief scolding, he came to his senses. Julie gently took Pedro to school and told him that, despite everything, she had loved him, but they couldn't be together. She encouraged him to forget her and move on with his life. Pedro understood her words and went on to complete his exam, while Julie attended her wedding. In the end, Pedro accepted her departure and moved forward with his life, realizing that many opportunities and relationships still awaited him. End of the film. If you enjoyed the film, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming content.